Hi guys, welcome and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is a continuation of last week's video, and last week's video was on how to make your own bomber jacket. So basically that was the part one, and this is the second part of the video. So if you haven't seen that one, I would like to encourage you to go ahead and watch that first and then come back to this video. Guys, thank you so much for the positive feedback on the last video. You guys are absolutely amazing. If you're here and you've not subscribed, please don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit the like button as well, because I'm positive you're going to enjoy this video. All right guys, enjoy the video. Working in between the lining and the main fabric, hold the seams together as shown. So basically what you want to do is you want to go in between the lining and the main fabric, and then you want to find the notches on the center. So you want to find the notch on the main fabric as well as the notch on the lining, and then you want to pin them together. And then you also want to find the seam allowances at the sides of the main fabric and on the lining, and you want to pin them together, and you want to just sew this together. You have to be sure that you're sewing from the notch, which is at the center, to the sides in both directions. So you'll be sewing to the left and to the right hand side, and the essence of this is just to keep your jacket together and to keep them in unison, because you don't want the pieces being like totally separatable even though they are two separate pieces. So you just basically want to keep them together around the ribbon area, and so that the ribbon is not going to be moving apart as well. So after pinning it together as shown, you want to go ahead and sew it together as described, and you'll be sewing, basically above the stitch that is already existing. So after holding the seams together on the inside, this is what your jacket should look like. You should have no visible stitches on the outside, and as you can see, it still looks as good. Nothing looks different, but you can see that it's not separatable as it was before. Next, we'll need to sort out the neckline. To cut out the ribbon needed for the neckline, you'll need to measure the neckline, and this is done while the jacket is folded in half. So you want to fold the jacket into two, just like I'm doing, making sure all the seams are aligned and then the zipper aligns, and you want to read out the measurements just like I'm doing. After you've taken the measurement, whatever measurement you take at the moment, you'll need to double it by 2. So for instance, I took a measurement of 8 inches, meaning that my total neckline is 16 inches, because like I said, the jacket was folded into 2. Go ahead and cut out a ribbon that is about 4 or 5 inches shorter than the measurement taken. So in the case where I took 16 inches, I will cut out a ribbon that is about 11 inches. After cutting out the required ribbon fabric, you want to go ahead and fold the ribbon into 2 and then fold it over again. You want to make sure that the folded edge is at the top while the separated edge is at the bottom. And starting from the top where the folded edge is, you want to draw a slant inwards, and then you want to also mark out the height that you require. I recommend a height of 1.75 inches. So after marking out the height, you want to connect it to the slant line that you have, and then you want to cut it off as shown. Again, I will show you how to draw the shape on a piece of paper in a minute so that you can clearly understand what I did. So like I said, you want to assume that you have the folded edge at the top. You basically just want to have like just a little shape, just like something I've just drawn out, and that's all you need really. Go ahead and notch the center of the neck ribbon fabric while it's folded into 2. So you basically want to notch the center just like that, and you also want to notch the center of the jacket. So you want to make sure you notch the center of the jacket main fabric and of the jacket lining. You can do both while they're together. After notching the centers of all the pieces, go ahead and pin the notch on the ribbon to the notch on the fabric, and then go ahead and pin the tip of the ribbon to the end of the jacket. You want to make sure that it's as close to the zipper as possible without going over the zipper. After pinning the ribbon to the fabric at the center and at the ends, go ahead and stretch out the ribbon so that you can pin it to the jacket at the shoulder lines, and you also want to repeat this at the other side. After pinning the ribbon to the jacket all through the neckline, or to the main fabric rather, all through the neckline, go ahead and sew it together on 1/2 inch sewing allowance. After sewing the ribbon to the main fabric, this is what it looks like, and as you can see, it looks nicely done on the outside. However, we do need to cover it up with the lining so that we have no loose stitches or no loose seams. So to cover it up with the lining, you want to go ahead and go in through the armhole, and you basically just want to turn your jacket inside out. After turning the jacket inside out, go ahead and pin the lining to the main fabric around the neckline. You want to make sure that the ribbon is sandwiched in between the lining and the main fabric, and you also want to make sure that the notches on the center match, as well as the armhole lines or armhole seams match on the lining and the main fabric. After sewing the neckline, this is what the jacket looks like. Go ahead and turn the jacket to the right side through the armhole, and then go ahead and push out all the corners that need pushing out. At this point, your jacket is almost finished, and the last thing to do will be the sleeves, and this is what your jacket should look like at this point. I also forgot to mention, it's advisable to notch the neckline just before you turn it to the right side. So go ahead and notch it gently without cutting through the seams. Go ahead and iron the jacket, and then you want to top stitch as close to the zipper as possible. I recommend about 1/4 of an inch away from the zipper. After ironing, go ahead and top stitch just to give it the professional look that you want to have. Moving on to the sleeves, go ahead and measure the wrist area and then cut out 2 pieces of ribbon fabric that are 2 or 3 inches shorter than the wrist circumference measurement taken. So for instance, if your rib circumference is 10 inches, you want to go ahead and cut out 2 ribbon fabrics that will be 8 inches in width. That's what I recommend, 2 or 3 inches shorter, not more. Notch the center of the ribbon fabric. You want to notch the top as well as the bottom, and you also want to notch the center of the sleeves. So for the center of the sleeves, you're going to be notching the bottom, and you're going to be notching, the bottom of the lining as well as the bottom of the main fabric. Pin the ribbon fabric to the main fabric. You want to make sure that the ribbon is pinned to the right side of the main fabric, and you also want to make sure that you start at the notch and then go ahead and pull the ribbon towards the edge, pin the edge in place, and then you can go ahead and pin the middle points just like I'm doing right now. After pinning the ribbon to the sleeves, go ahead and sew it on a 1/2 inch sewing allowance. You also want to make sure you repeat this on the other sleeve as well. After sewing, this is what it looks like, and as you can see, while it's at ease, everything is all gathered, but while it's stretched out, it's all straight and it looks really nice. The next thing to do is to pin the notch on the sleeve lining to the opposite end of the ribbon fabric. You want to make sure that you pin starting from the center, and then you go ahead and pin the ends and stretch out the ribbon so that you can pin the lining to the ribbon all through. Afterwards, go ahead and sew on 1/2 inch, and then what you have should look like this. The next thing to do is to fold the sleeves over as shown, making sure all the seams match, and then you want to go ahead and pin it all the way from the top to the bottom. As you can see, while pinning, the lining is separated from the main fabric and everything is on the wrong side. So basically you want to pin all the way from the top to the bottom like I mentioned earlier, and then you want to go ahead and mark out the sewing allowance of 1 inch all the way from the top to the bottom. After pinning all the way from the top to the bottom, go ahead and sew it in place, remembering to lock your stitches when necessary. You also want to repeat this for the other sleeve as well. After sewing, this is what the sleeve should look like. So go ahead and turn the sleeves over to the right side so that the lining is on the inside, and then you have the ribbon as it should be. Alright guys, so at this point, this is what the sleeves look like, and as you can see, it looks really professional if I can say so myself. Carefully go in between the lining and the fabric, and then you want to hold the seam allowance together, similar to what we did for the waist area or for the hip area. Basically, you want to start and then hold the notch on the lining and on the main fabric. You want to hold the seams together, and then you want to basically just hold it together with some stitches. You want to sew to the left and to the right as far back as you can go. After stitching them together, you'll notice that the sleeves are now firmer. Make sure to remove all the pins, guys. Throughout this process, you want to make sure that you're not leaving any pins in your jacket, please. So guys, for this portion of the video, it does get a little bit tricky. However, I am going as slow as possible. I didn't fast forward this part so that you guys can absolutely get it. So the next thing to do is to separate the lining from the main fabric, and then you want to carefully pin the sleeves to the armhole. You want to make sure that the sleeve joining, or the joining on the sleeves, match the side joining on the jacket, and as well as the notch on the sleeve crown matches the shoulder line on the jacket. And you basically just want to pin your sleeves to the armhole all around. Now you want to make sure that you're starting with the side that has no gap in the lining. So I don't know if you guys remember, but when we were sewing it earlier in the beginning, that's in the first part of the video, we left a gap in the lining for one of the sides. You want to make sure to start with the side that has no gap in the lining, and you want to fix the sleeves at this point. Guys, if you don't know how to fix the sleeve or how to cut and fix the sleeves, I have a detailed tutorial showing you how to, so please do check it out. It will help you a lot. Go ahead and pin the sleeves all around, and after pinning the sleeves, you want to go ahead and sew it in place on a 1/2 inch sewing allowance. After sewing the sleeves, this is what it looks like, and as you can see, we only did the main fabric to the main fabric. Now it's time to sew the lining sleeves to the lining. So you want to position the lining sleeves to the lining armhole as it should be, then carefully pin it while going through the other armhole. So I'm going to go again. You want to hold the side seam of the lining. You want to hold them together, and then you want to go through the other armhole and then pull out the sleeves and then pin it in place. So it's a bit tricky, but if you watch the video slowly, I'm sure you will get it. After doing that and pulling out the armhole from that side, you want to go ahead and pin the sleeves all around and sew on a 1/2 inch sewing allowance. While pinning the sleeves to the armhole, it's important that you match the sleeve crown to the shoulder line on the armhole, and then you want to match the side seam on the sleeves to the side seam on the jacket. You want to make sure that you pin it all around, even though it's slightly tricky, but I trust you, I believe in you, and I know that you'll get it. After sewing, This is what it looks like. So you basically just want to push it in through the armhole again so that you have it looking nice. And as you can see, the sleeves look really nice. This is the inside and it just looks really neat and professionally finished. And we are now done with one sleeve, guys. Guys, well done. You guys are absolutely awesome. If you made it to this point, you are incredible. So now is to do the second sleeve, and that one is slightly tricky because we have limited space to work with. As you can see, we're working on the side that has the gap now, and that's what you should be doing as well. Just in case you're not bothered with a professional finish, what you can do is you can actually just hold both the lining and the main jacket together and then just sew the whole thing together. However, you will need to whip it so that it looks really tidy. But again, that's just an alternative method. Just in case you were looking for a quick fix, I do not encourage it. I would like you guys to challenge yourself and finish it professionally. To fix the last sleeve, go ahead and separate the lining from the main fabric, and you want to do this for the sleeve as well. And then you want to pin the main fabric. So we'll be starting with the main fabric. Go ahead and pin the side seams together and then pin the sleeve crown to the shoulder line as well. After pinning that, you want to go in from the inside through the armhole, and then you want to go ahead and pin the whole sleeve all around. So the advantage we have at this point is that we still have the space from the armhole that's on the inside of the jacket to work with. So you can easily and conveniently pull out the main fabric armhole and then just pin your sleeves in place. After pinning, you want to go ahead and sew on 1/2 inch sewing allowance. I'm sure you guys know the drill and I'm sure you guys have got it. Well done, guys. After sewing the sleeves, the second sleeve, now this is what it looks like. Remember, guys, we do need to finish the sleeve, and that's where it now becomes slightly tricky, but not trickier than you guys, because you guys are absolutely smart and I know you've got this. So you basically want to pull out the lining and you want to make sure it's not tangled on the inside, and then now you want to pin the lining. Now we'll be starting at the sleeve crown. So you basically want to pin the sleeve crown to the shoulder line. You want to make sure the right sides of both pieces are facing each other, and then you want to pin it in place. After pinning the sleeve crown to the shoulder joining, the next thing to do will be to pin the side seam joining on the sleeve to the side seam joining on the jacket. So you basically want to spread out the seams and then pin it together, making sure the right sides are facing each other. After doing this, you want to work your way and then pin from one side. You want to focus on one side, guys. So you're going to pin from that sleeve joining or that side seam joining all the way to the sleeve crown on one side. It's a bit tricky, so you're going to be going through the hole, but you'll be pinning only one side and sewing only one side at a time. So again, it is a bit tricky because you are going in through the gap on the side seam, the gap on the side, that one we left, and then you're going to carefully pull out the sleeves while pins are already in there. So you need to be careful not to prick yourself, and then you're going to go ahead and carefully pin everything in place on one side. So you're going to go ahead and pin maybe from the side seam area. You want to pin all the way to the sleeve crown on just one side. After pinning that side, go ahead and sew it in place on a 1/2 inch sewing allowance. After sewing, Take out all the pins and then position your sleeves as it should be so that we can see what we're working with. As you can see, you would have one side of the sleeve lining sewn and then the other side unsewn. So we're going to go ahead and repeat the process for the other side. You want to carefully slot your hand into the gap that we left, and then you want to pull out the sleeves, and then you want to go ahead and pin the sleeves in place, starting from the sleeve crown and working your way to the side seam area. After pinning the other side, go ahead and sew it in place on a 1/2 inch sewing allowance. After sewing the sleeves in place, this is what it looks like. Carefully remove all the pins that you have there, and then you want to tuck your jacket back in as it should be. So at this point, this is what the jacket looks like, and as you can see, it all looks professionally tucked in. It all looks very neat and very nice. The next thing to do, which is the last thing, will be to top stitch the gap close. So you basically want to separate the lining from the main fabric and then top stitch the gap close so that it's barely noticeable. So guys, after top stitching, this is what it looks like, and you guys would agree with me that the jacket looks professionally finished and professionally done. Alright guys, so we've come to the very end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope it was worth your while. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Don't forget to like. Please, the thumbs up and the interaction helps me a lot. Don't forget to leave your comments, suggestions and feedback in the comments section below. If you've not shared this video with a friend, what are you waiting for? Please don't forget to share, don't forget to like, don't forget to leave your comments and feedback in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for the love, and thank you so much for being a part of this family, and I'll see you on my next video next week Sunday. Thank you and stay safe.